plenary session, I have the privilege of introducing Ridvan Foxhall. She's like too many of us, she's a dear friend. We kind of brought our kids up together. Many a night up talking late at Greenacre, many a day here and between our homes. In 2013, she began a very ambitious endeavor, singly and alone. She began Children's Theater Company up in Peekskill, which is where she and her husband Eric and she raised her 2 children. And that was in 2013. And she did this amazing thing. She immediately reached out to her community. Of course, there were plenty of Baha'is and friends, but in the development of community was what made me think of her in terms of this conference. Since that time, in 23, the program actually has, I should say, it's, oh my gosh, grown exponentially. So the New Era Creative Space brings community leaders, educators, artists, activists, scientists, and students together to develop education programs and generational empowerment. So the little kids that she taught in 2013 are now youth, college kids, feeding right back into the program of providing after-school activities in junior youth empowerment, in female empowerment. They've taken trips to different parts of the world. She has ambitiously wrote and received a grant from Sony where they went to, did they even go? Oh, she'll explain. Anyway, she's done amazing things. And the reason why I thought she would be a great fit is because she's been really so eloquent and effective in reaching beyond friends, neighbors, and really incorporating her community. The New Era Creative Space now has a permanent facility, and we are all here to learn together. So I think we're going to learn a lot from Ridvan today. So thank you for coming.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am honored to be here, and thank you, Lee, for inviting me to be your speaker today, this morning. So New Era Creative Space, also known as NECS, N-E-C-S, people call it different things, is the organization that I run. But before I go into New Era Creative Space, I think it has evolved from where we started to where it is right now. We started as a couple of parents in my living room talking about spiritual education of children, and then it kind of evolved over the years. So it was just a project in my living room that has become this organization. I think, the God loves laughter. We all know this. Because a tiny project that I was going to end a few years after my kids got to a certain age, grew into this organization that now I'm, working on keeping alive and sustaining, and hopefully it'll live past my being there as the executive director. So to talk about reflections. So we, in 2000, this quote, "Children are the most precious treasure a community can possess, for in them are the promise and the guarantee of the future." So when we read that message, it really struck me. I had little children at the time, and I thought to myself, what am I as an individual going to do in terms of nurturing the children? And I start with my children. And so we started the spiritual parenting program, which was just a number of neighbors, parents in our communities, and none of them Baha'is except me. And the thing that tied us all together was this question of how do we raise moral and spiritual children? So hence spiritual parenting. And so the other thing that, I kept thinking about is this quote by Baha'u'llah: regard man as a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. So this idea that we are all mines rich in gems of inestimable value. And I had little children at the time, and so these are the questions I was thinking about. How do I nurture my children? How do we do it in community? And the House of Justice was asking us to work in communities, to work in our neighborhoods, to think about how we can raise, and then the junior youth program. So these were all the questions that we were asking. The other thing I've reflected and we were reflecting on at the time was this idea that the arts, crafts and sciences uplift the world of being and are conducive to its exaltation. As someone who studied art in college, I knew the power of arts to effect change in a community. And the writings, the Baha'i writings, there's a lot of writings about how the arts can really transform a community. So that was another thing I was reflecting on at the time. And then finally, the other question was this idea of justice. The best beloved of all things in our sight is justice. In my sight, Baha'u'llah says, and the light of men is justice. The purpose of justice is the appearance of unity amongst mankind. So I live in a community where a large population of our children don't have access. They don't have access to good programming. They don't have access to a lot. And we have a lot of neighborhoods that our children live in the projects. It's like, so how do we bring the arts to them? And so these were the questions, these were the things that I was contemplating at the time. And so I was asking these questions, but also with the other parents, because we just gather at my home once a month and we talk about spiritual parenting. And so we were asking these questions. And when you think of Baha'u'llah's vision for humanity, building vibrant communities to becoming true practitioners of peace, what does that look like and how do we do that? So we were just asking, reflecting, and talking amongst each other about how do we build these communities. And also, Baha'u'llah talks about education, the centrality of education. So we started thinking about redefining education, because education in the world right now is all about intellectual education. But Baha'u'llah is asking us to go beyond intellectual education. Education has to be spiritual. It has to be emotional. It has to be a holistic look of education.
That into community building, and how do we do it? So I had this audacious idea, and I talked to the parents that were with me, and I said, what if we started? And this was actually 19 years ago, before New Era Creative Space came into the organization came into being. It was just a number of parents. And, I posed the question, could we do a theater company within Peekskill? Because Peekskill has a lot of artists. And focus, and have the focus be on character development, where we're using theater as a tool to build character, theater as a tool to develop critical thinking skills for young people, theater as a tool for them to work collaboratively, think critically, and work together. And, it was a resounding yes, let's do this. So we had a few parents in my neighborhood, in the community. We had our little children, and we embarked on this journey to start a theater company that's focused on building character, because those were the questions that we were asking. And as a Baha'i, and reading the writings that are coming from the Universal House of Justice, and as this organization, 8 years into this process, I wasn't expecting it to last 8 years. But 8 years into the process, every year I was like, oh, all right, this will be my last year. My kids are growing, they're in middle school, they're in high school. I don't need to do this anymore once my children are past a certain age. But I remember, and when I started New Era Creative Space, and the reason I started it is because of this quote from Baha'u'llah, O ye rich ones on earth, the poor in thy midst are my trust. Guard ye my trust, right? So how I interpreted that, it wasn't enough to just raise our own children, and once our children are gone, because I had now, after 8 years of doing this, we had this community we had built with all these parents and all these children. Do I stop serving the community because my children have outgrown the program? So that was the question that really struck me, that all of the children in our community are our children. We don't just raise our children and then we move on to the next thing. If we are in this work of building vibrant communities, it has to go beyond our individual kids. So in 2013, New Era Creative Space came into being because we had the families, we had built the communities, we had 8 years of doing this, we had children and families that were coming back year after year. We had children we were watching grow now in the program. And so it just it didn't feel right to drop the ball at that point. And we had this community. So something that started as a small project just evolved into this thing. And it was never my intention, but then it became obvious that it needed to go on. Especially as the House of Justice was sending information about what social action, so then really studying what does social action mean and look like. And social action seeks to promote the social and material well-being of the people of all walks of life, right? And background. Such efforts are motivated by the desire to serve humanity and contribute to the constructive social change. And these were the writings that we were getting from the the guidance we were getting from the House of Justice. So then we started to look at this organization. As the founder of New Era Creative Space, which came into being in 2013, we were, wait, I went back, sorry. Can I go forward? Ooh, I went forward, I can do this. So we were also trying to figure out what does social action mean. So going back to the guidance from the Universal House of Justice, and what does a Baha'i-inspired organization mean and look like? Because I didn't know. This wasn't something I had thought about. But reading from the guidance, the methodology of Baha'i social and economic development, because that is what it was starting to become, right? So one of the things was reading society and formulating a vision. So we started to do that. Read our society. In our case, our community of 24,000 people in the little city of Peekskill. Consulting with the local members of the community, having consultations with our parents, with our children, with local community members, and then act, reflect on the action, and kind of have this cycle. And then it became obvious that we also needed material means, because now we weren't just, a project out of my living room. Now we had all these families that were depending on us, but also we had all these families that were in need, financial need, because they can't afford programs. And we have artists, and I personally do not believe in this idea of starving artists, expecting artists to put in all this work and effort and not paying them for their services. So then it became, how do we raise funds to do this? Utilizing material funds, and also our guiding principles has always been the Baha'i writings and the messages from the House of Justice, and reading that and trying to implement that into everything that we do. So one of the other things that we did is we started looking at some of the models of the junior youth model, for instance, and started thinking about how do we bring this model into a system that is mostly people who are not Baha'is. However, people who are seeking spiritual ways to raise their kids, spiritual and moral ways, right? So we decided to implement the junior youth model into our programs, right? To tap into young people's acute sense of justice, growing awareness, and increase interest in profound questions. they really are a reservoir of capacity to transform society. So those were all of the things that we were thinking about, and over the course of the years, as we were growing this program, asking these questions, as we got guidance from the House of Justice and guidance from the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, we, thought about how do we translate that into a community of people that are from all different religions. How do we implement that? And what we are finding is that people are seeking and people are hungry for spirituality. They're hungry for programs that have character education at its core. And so it's so having those conversations with families, with community members and neighbors, and drawing them into, and really bringing them to walk with us along this journey of building community and building vibrant communities. So, this is one of the guidance from the Universal House of Justice. Community building is an expression of our belief in humanity's oneness. The welfare of any segment of humanity is inextricably bound up with the welfare of the whole. Humanity's collective life suffers when any one group thinks of its own well-being in isolation from its neighbors. So really thinking about how do we work with and have our neighbors walk along with us in this journey becomes really important, imperative. So then in 2020, so we've spent all these years gathering data, using the House of Justice as guidance and the Baha'i writings as guidance, but we're still kind of not sure what we are doing. And this whole process was really an experiment in, what does vibrant communities look like. And so we, a group of us, we gathered in 2020, which with everything going on in the world, and we had to stop our programs, and we lost our space at the time. It was a great opportunity to really think about what is our mission and what are our values. How do we really weave our values into every aspect of everything that we do and bring everybody along this process with us. And so after months during this time of kind of isolation, and we were on Zoom, meeting on a regular basis, and with the guidance from the writings, our mission, we kind of rebranded the entire organization from everything we had learned over the years. Our mission then, this is our current mission, inspiring stronger communities through creative programming. So our goal is always to inspire stronger communities. How we do it is through programming, right? It's through creative programs. And so that became our mission. And then we have to, thinking about our vision. So with using the guidance, we envision strong communities that are vibrant, self-sustaining, diverse, and where young people are active agents of positive change, are enabled with social emotional skills to enact change, are empowered to take leadership roles in the communities, are able and excited to nurture the next generation of visionary thinkers. So what does that look like? So we are not an art center that you just come, you take classes, you leave. We serve from K, at this point, we serve from K through 12, and as of this summer, we'll be serving students who are 18 to 24, who have not graduated high school, but we're trying to figure out a way to get them involved in the community. So, so what we're our goal is what does vibrant, how do we get this vision put this vision into action? How we do that is follow these children from K through 12. Right? So it's not a one, you take a class and you end. We're creating programs so that they can be a part of, they can grow with us. We can build community together. Some of our parents we've known for 8, 9, 10 years. Some of our parents, when their children have left our organization, like yesterday we had a staff development meeting, and one of the advisory members is a parent whose child was with us for 9 years. our because now her child is now in college as of last year, and she wants to be a part of growing this organization. So she's now on our advisory council board, and one of our our resident artists who started with us 19 years ago, but now she's hired as a resident artist within our organization. And so many of our students are going to college and coming back because eventually, we want to be able to hand this over to them so that this is an organization that does not need me in the picture. I'm really working on removing myself, but creating something in the community that can live beyond me. So yeah, building vibrant communities, the only way you can do that if you think long term. Because if it can't be a short, especially when for socioeconomic or projects such as ours, it can't be short term. We have to think about how are we raising the communities together, how are we building vibrant communities. And so we went beyond that and we created core values. And core values, I always say, is kind of our roadmap to where we're going. And after months of consulting with our parents, teachers, we came up with 6 core values that sum up what we're doing. And these core values are really what we do with these. Oh, I'm not there yet. There you go. So what the thing about our core values is creativity. We're in New Era Creative Space, and we're using the arts as a tool, right? So creativity is part of our core values. Joy, because joy gives us wings, and we want to derive joy from all of our pursuits, from our intellectual and creative pursuits. Justice. We live in a world that's, in a society and in a world where, a lot of people don't have access, right? So justice then becomes very important to this work that we are doing, and we see a lot of that in our community. And so we want to be inclusive in the way that we treat our students, but also inclusive in that we allow access. So we give scholarships to every single, 100% of the students that need scholarships get scholarships. And if they need like 100% scholarship, we give them 100% scholarship. So nobility, the recognition of the inherent nobility of every human being, including ourselves. So our students are coming to our space as well as ourselves and how we treat each other, right? It's really important. And service, to love humanity and try to serve it. So in everything we do, making sure that we are of service to each other, the children are of service to each other as well. And empathy, to develop an innate care for human beings and also for our planet. And I think it's really important. So all of our programs, when we are designing programs, we're thinking about the core values. We're making sure that every person that comes into our space knows what our mission is, what our core values are, and that as teachers are designing programs for our students, they're incorporating our core values. So we ask them, how are you incorporating creativity, joy, justice? We do implicit bias training with our teachers because a lot of our students are Black and brown kids. So it's very important that we do implicit bias training. So we're really being intentional about justice, not only making sure that people have access to our programs, but also making sure in the way we treat our students that we're thinking about implicit bias. We're thinking about the way we live in a racialized society and how many of us don't even think about it. We perpetuate racism without even knowing. So we're having this year we had a large implicit bias training for all of our staff. And every year we're looking at, how do we really create, a just community. And nobility, every child that comes into our space, to create a space that's beautiful and worthy of them. Because in many neighborhoods where poor children are, we have programs for them, but it's in spaces that are not worthy of them. And so we want to, in every aspect, in the way that we present ourselves, in the environment that we are, we want to always respect the nobility. We are all created noble, and because people are poor, it doesn't mean that they deserve less, right? And so creating that environment for them, keep track of time. And so we come up with a method, and the method is to make sure that we are collaborating. We're teaching our children how to collaborate. We're providing experiential learning, and we are collaborating with our community partners, because we want to make sure that the whole community is part of this process. So what time do I have? Now? Okay. So I'm going to try to wrap this up by skipping a few, because I've talked about it. So service learning, as Lee said, we go beyond peak skill. We've taken students to the Gambia to do work there, and also because many of our students don't travel out of peak skill, so giving them access to go beyond their neighborhoods. We go to the housing authority and we provide programs there. This is one of our housing authorities. The children don't have access. It's kind of out of the way, and they don't have access to a lot of programming in peak skill, nor the financial means. So we go to them and we provide programs in our community. Connecting children with nature, we're always making sure not only do we connect them in nature, so in a way that they are doing service, but also that they are having fun in nature, because children who come to love nature will advocate for it. They love being in nature, love hiking, will advocate for it. And also, we know that a lot of, like kayaking, for instance, it seems, why do you take kids kayaking in the summer? Well, a lot of black and brown kids don't go kayaking, and they don't do a lot of water sports because they feel that these sports are like white people's sports. But we expose them to them because the world belongs to all of us, not just one group of people. So we're thinking really consciously about these programs. And telling their stories. So we added media arts, which as Lee said, we have a partnership with Sony, and Sony provides us with all the technology so that now children have these the equipment to tell their stories through photography and film. And film is something we're doing right now. We're starting a program where we're noticing that 15% of our students don't graduate high school. And so that is only 85% graduate. What's going on with the 15%, right, in our community? So what if we teach them skills like filmmaking, where everyone wants a video, every organization wants a video. So this spring, actually, we have 6 organizations in Peak Skill that have signed up to sponsor this program, so that the students will be working on real projects. So they're actually making videos for organizations in our community. So the organization gets the video, and then the money that we get from there, we pay the students. So they're, because a lot of our students, in the summer, they will go to McDonald's, for instance, to get work because they need work and they have to work. So then we're reading our community, and this is one of the ways. So we decided, what if we pay them $16.50 or whatever the minimum wages that they get at McDonald's to learn film? And in the end, they have a skill that they can use, and they have hope for their future, right? As they haven't graduated college, and here's an opportunity. We're giving them skills so that they can have hope for the future, for their future, and they don't have to just do the jobs that society. So anyway, I will leave you with this, if that's okay, Lee. I feel like if we work together as a community, we can grow together, and we can really support the young people in our communities. I started New Era Creative Space because I was really looking for programming for my children. We have so many artists in Peak Skill, so I thought maybe if we work with some of the artists in Peak Skill and create a space where students can come and really have it be a hub, a lab for creativity. We do theater, we do visual arts, performing arts.
I think NECS has been one of the primary sources of my growth, if I'm being really honest.
And we do a lot of leadership and empowerment programs.
because it really comes from my personal belief that every child, every individual has the potential to do great things, and given the opportunity through resources, they can really, they can change the world, they can change their own lives, but they can also really affect community. We have students who are really into social justice. We also have conversations about community and how to make our community a better place and how to make our world a better place. So I hear a lot back from our students, our alumni, who say they've taken some of the values that they've learned from New Era Creative Space and they're putting it into their lives. So the future for NECS is really exciting because we just signed the lease May 2024. So we signed the lease to the space next to the Bean Runner. What we're excited to start to pilot in the fall is a Pathways to Careers programs. So what we're going to do is pay young people ages 16 to 24 to come learn about video production, photography, so that we give them a pathways to careers. I'm pretty excited about the new space, and it's going to be like, it's going to be a new era for us again. My request to the Peekskill community and Westchester community is just to continue to support us. They can volunteer with us, people can work with us, people can support us financially. I'm really excited about and honored that the Chamber has chosen us for the Quality of Life Award, which really speaks to what we do. We are trying to improve the quality of life of the young people in our community, and to be recognized for that is truly an honor.